liberty we were denied.
No master
Terror turned her back on us. The void hungers. Race oblivion. We treated the world no better. Death is our legacy. A dead body. Stand down or die. I cannot do that. The world called to our abyss. This is his answer. The void comes. Ice follows. Do that. Ice to the ruin. I cannot do that. Ice follow. Run from it. Stand down or die. Nowhere to run. Bound in storm. Oblivion follows. Tropic thunder follows. Find hunger. Entropic chill. Die, human. Die, human. Stand down or die. Die, would human witness fate? Cannot do that. Entropic chill. The cold watches.
Hey guys, it's Volka. So Shield Throw, Time Rot, Void Knight. We're dealing damage with Time Rot, so it's limited to 12 stacks. So you want to have a skill with big multipliers to get like a bunch of damage with the ailment. So Shield Throw is great now with the new conversion that got fixed. So we can use all of the multipliers available. So you get the cooldown node for 100% more. You get Lava Burst for 150% more, and then you get this 75 is going to be Void when you convert it to Void. And also this Fuse Pen is going to be Void Pen with the conversion. For mapping, you can also just like play like an auto bomber, just walk around with the Devouring Orb. This is going to be auto cast while you move, and it's enough to kill stuff at like 1k corruption easily. You can also, for mapping, you can, for example, like spec something else differently. So you can take some points out from this one and then get some range here. So the orb is going to be like further away from you. That's also an option. I did not do that on the gameplay there, but you know, it's gonna be nice for clearing if you wanna respec a bit. This build has a lot of damage, so you can easily drop a bunch of damage, and you're still gonna be like insta killing everything. So, and that's why also I made two setups. I made a dual wield setup, and then I made a block variant. So if you wanna be tankier for maps or something, this still has a lot of damage, the block variant, so it's completely fine. The main thing you lose is the AoE from the like apart from DPS, the main thing you lose is the AoE from the Scepter, and you getting the area corruption is pretty hard with the block variant. But yeah, so the clear is gonna be a bit worse, quite a bit worse actually on the block. But yeah. And the other skills on this build, so Volatile is her movement skill, and this also gives you a buff here, so 15% damage over time taken when you hit with the Void Bolts, and then you also get Abyssal Echoes auto cast with this. So basically this node is gonna be Abyssal Echoes instead of Void Bolts, and then this one still gives you the Void Bolt, so you can get both of the, you know, the buff and the Abyssal Echoes cast. So Abyssal Echoes gives you a Nether Coating buff for speed, and then more damage against blinded, more damage over time taken, and stuff like that, timer chance. So buff like on many other builds, and then anomaly. So this is what makes the build kind of like crazy for bosses, especially because you can use this node, which is currently bugged, but it's actually a good bug for the build. So basically, this makes so all the time rod stacks instantly consume when you press anomaly on the boss. So this says 25% ailment speed, but it's actually like maybe like 250%. It's basically like you consume everything instantly. So that's why you get the big pop on something like Uber, and you can instantly go to the next like invuln phase on Uber, for example. So it's a bug, but you know it's been bugged forever, and it's actually like a good bug for the build. So that's how it is, and you get the usual stuff like more void damage taken and stuff like that. You want to minimize the cooldown, so you can use this like every rotation. So you use shield throw and then anomaly to pop the time rod on bosses. But this like rotation stuff is only needed for bosses. You don't, or something like Uber. You don't need to do any rotation for mapping. You can just play very easy gameplay on maps. And you get the usual stuff like attack speed, cooldown. So getting cooldown is quite nice on the build. So this is 6 seconds, so you want to make it's a slower cooldown, so it's nice to use and more DPS on bosses. You do the rotation more often. I don't go for cooldown on boots because you need 2 LP, and it's not really needed at all. You have a lot of cooldown already. You also get cooldown from the altar, for example. So there's new sources of cooldown compared to before. You get cooldown on the ring, so you really don't need more cooldown than what you have on the belt and the other sources. And basically the gearing on this build is like, so you have this passive, so time rod scales with a bunch of stats, so slow chance, time rod chance, and attack or cast speed scale the ailment damage. And so you want to basically get all the slow chance you can, all the time rod chance you can, and then attack and cast speed is going to be like whichever is lowest out of melee, throwing, or cast speed is going to be the multiplier. So you want to balance out the speed stats, which we do on the setup. And so basically on the gears, you just go for like time rod chance on the chest, on the helmet, slow chance of weapons, get atrophy gloves for a bunch of damage. Also aspirational, you can use immortal vice, but you lose a lot of damage, but that's an option for tankiness. And on this build, we're going for a bunch of sets, so that's definitely the downside of this build is that to be optimal, to get like everything super nice, you want to get a bunch of sets. So it's a bunch of exalted items. A bunch of exalted items on the build. You don't need every stat here though. Like definitely you want to get the D7 affix, so the time rod chance for damage. But for example, you don't need anomaly, you don't need HP. So if you want to just get like the base setup, you can just get all the set affixes. You don't need any of this. You don't need to seal anything. You can get rid of the HP. I mean, of course you want HP, but So this is like the important stuff basically on the items. If we actually remove all of this other stuff, belt you kind of want to have every stat. So get the cleanse and the mana regen helps and cooldown HP. So, but like this is like the main things you want on the items. So chest, helmet, timer chance, and then the set affixes. You only need T1 set with the endgame planner because you're using anchor for endurance, but then with the Uber relic you want to get T5 for the endurance. Cap your endurance there. But the weapon, just again, get the set affix on weapon and an amulet, and then get the slow chance. So these are like the stats you actually need. So it doesn't show up here, but with the set ring, we basically get +1 to each set. So this is gonna be, the third set is gonna be activated. Same here, the three set bonus is gonna be activated. So you get 2 completed sets here for like +10 all attributes and +10 all rest. They also don't show up here on the planner at the moment, but you get +2 skills and stuff like that as well per complete set. And then we use the dual wield set, just one T1 sealed on the belt, so you get the more damage while dual wielding different item types. And this is going to be sword, this is scepter, so you get the different item types there. So for idols on this build, I'm going for 4 of these grand idols with enchants, and then just 1 duration idol. So you don't want to overbuild duration, even though we know that anomaly is basically instantly consumes and duration is very good. But it only matters for Uber, and even for Uber, this is a lot of damage. So you actually gain the same damage anyways if you whether you go for duration or you go for these actual like raw damage idols. And these are going to be much easier to get than something like 3 Omen idols with 2 huge idols and stuff like that. So you can get 4 grand idols. These give you a lot of damage, so slow chance and time rot chance. You can get like either time rot or slow, they're both fine. So actually you have 2 suffixes you can even use here. So getting the idol itself should be quite easy, you know, and with like prophecies and stuff, and then you can get the enchant. And this enchant is also like 1 weight, so it's just as common as any other enchant. So it's not something like a movement speed enchant, for example, that's like really hard to get. So this you can for sure get these enchants on the idols here, and same on this one. This one also can get the enchant, and the inspiration is nice for mapping. You know, you get extra cooldown from the inspiration. And so with this setup, you don't need to have an altar with like plus Omen idols, for example. You just need to get to 1 Omen idol. Like, of course, you don't need this, to be honest, so you can just play without the Omen idol if you don't have it, but it's nice for damage on Uber. But yeah, so this is the optimal setup for the idols. And one other thing to note on the setup, we also do get the 10% cooldown from the altar, so we're actually doing the pyramid setup here, so that's basically free 10% cooldown. So try to get the pyramid altar for this build, very strong. And on the altar itself, you don't need every affix again. Ideally, you get one of these like DPS affixes, kind of like, you know, the prefix suffix effect, for example, would be nice. Get the reduced crit, so you don't need to get reduced crit on the helm, so you can just get the Leonine and then the reduced. If you don't have this, just, you know, instead of HP, get the reduced crit here, so that's gonna be fine. And then we also have the block variant on this build, so trading damage for defense, so you lose quite a bit of damage, but you gain gap block, you gain a bunch of block effectiveness, and otherwise it's mostly the same setup. So going for bulwark instead of dual wielding, and the main thing you also lose here, apart from the DPS, is the area, so you can easily corrupt this with 1 LP and get the area corruption, and this item also comes with area, so it's lower area and then also lower damage, but you will have enough damage anyways, so this is gonna be nice for something like hardcore, and you will be tankier against hits for sure. So 48% block mitigation on the endgame planner, and then 100% block chance, and then aspirational has actually 64% block effect, so basically you can get a lot more block effect with the corruptions and more LP and stuff like that. And bulwark is really the best choice for this because it's so easy to cap block with it, and we really don't want to use symbols for block, so you don't really have passives for it and you don't have space on the skill bar. And the main thing you change here is block chance on the ring, and then you can get D5 block on the gloves. If you don't have the glove block chance, for example, you can get this node here also if you need it, but optimally you don't even need to spec this. So yeah, that's the build. Very high damage. Can get really tanky actually with the block setup as well. Even dual wielding is quite tanky. Your capped armor on both of these setups, and you have a bunch of HP and stuff like that. And yeah, I guess the only really downside on this build is, you know, the gearing. So you wanna get a bunch of exalteds, bunch of sets. If you get the gear, it's definitely one of the best builds in the game at the moment. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.